Hello everyone. So bringing to you one more video on editorial and news analysis students. So in this video, I have analyzed this article which featured in the Hindu, and it is titled "Clear Signals on India-China Ties and the New Global Currents." So basically, students, the primary message of this article is that China claims that the US Indo-Pacific strategy is aiming to create an Indo-Pacific version of the NATO. Now, students, we all know this, that the root of the recent Russia-Ukraine conflict is the NATO, students, the expansionism of NATO. Russia fears that NATO, which is a military organization led by US, and which has this purpose of protecting or safeguarding all the members in case of any external aggression. So Russia fears that NATO is expanding eastward towards its neighborhood and poses a security threat to Russia, right? So basically, the entire Russia-Ukraine conflict is based on this fear of Russia of NATO's expansionism, right? Now, students, this article says that China has voiced, or China harbors similar fears about the, Indo-Pacific version of NATO. So basically what China says is that US has this whole strategy in Indo-Pacific region, right? And China has dubbed it as the Indo-Pacific version of NATO, that China is trying to form or is trying to getting into alliances in the Indo-Pacific region that are just another versions of NATO, right? So China has charged US with stoking geopolitical rivalry by forming exclusive clubs. So China said that US is getting into this exclusive club with few nations and pitching it against China. And by doing so, it is stoking geopolitical rivalry, right? So China has named some of the alliances that US has recently got into, not recently, but has been, over many years has got into different alliances. So China has named all those alliances as part of this whole strategy of US. So China has talked about strengthening the Five Eyes, that US has been trying to strengthen an alliance called the Five Eyes. Then students Quad, right? Then AUKUS. So these are the various alliances that US has got into with different nations. And it has also spoken about US tightening bilateral military alliances with different countries at an individual level, at a bilateral level, right? And pitching them against China. Okay, so at this point, students, let's quickly look at these alliances briefly, the Five Eyes, Quad, AUKUS, what they are. So students, Quad, it's called the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. And this is the informal strategic dialogue between India, USA, Japan, and Australia, with a shared objective to ensure and support a free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region, right? And it is based on the concept of Asia's democratic security diamond. In other words, Quad, students, it's an informal, it has not been formalized yet, right? It has not been given a formal structure or recognition. It is still informal, but it is a strategic dialogue between four countries, students: India, USA, Japan, and Australia, and hence it is known as the Quad, right? Now, students, what is the purpose of Quad? Why was Quad conceptualized? So formally, what was announced or declared or conveyed was that it is a security diamond. Basically, it is a partnership of four countries who come together to strengthen the security of the Asia Pacific region, right? And basically, it has been said that they're looking to, free the marine lines and to enhance cooperation in this area, particularly in security domain, so as to strengthen this region. Okay, but students, the background is the informal story is that Quad has been formed by US and the other countries in order to contain the growing power and domination of China in this region. So please listen to this very attentively. We all know, students, that China has been increasingly getting into territorial conflicts or aggression with different countries, students. Like, for instance, in case of India, it lays claim in the Arunachal Pradesh region and some portion of Ladakh, right? It has picked up similar conflict and fight with Japan. It has been interfering with the internal affairs of Australia. It has been interfering or sort of trying to, interfere with the marine lines of the Asia Pacific regions. So basically, due to this growing assertiveness of China, wherein it is trying to bully the smaller countries, the countries in its vicinity, both economically, there's economic coercion, as well as there are military threats. So because China has been doing it, so US has led this alliance to contain China, to stop China, right? So as it is written here that USA had followed a policy to contain China's increasingly influence in East Asia, and therefore USA sees the coalition as an opportunity to regain its influence in the Indo-Pacific region. And we also know that USA has been, like earlier we had a very unipolar world with USA being the only biggest power. So now USA is losing out to China, students. It's increasingly, it's sort of, what should I say? It's no more a unipolar world, and China is also gaining geopolitical status in the world, students, because of economic reasons and its military strength. So now USA sees China as a threat. So that is another reason why USA wants to contain China. Then, students, the USA has described China along with Russia as a strategic rival in its national security strategy. The USA has openly declared China and Russia as its strategic rival. And Quad is being criticized by China as Asian version of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because NATO, we all know, is like more focused on the Western part of the world. Most of the allies are the Western European countries. However, Quad is being dubbed or increasingly seen by China as the Eastern version of NATO. Next, student, there's something called AUKUS. So AUKUS is basically a partnership or an amalgamation of 3 member countries, namely Australia, UK, US, hence the name AUKUS. So AU for Australia, UK for UK, and US for US. So Australia, UK, US, AUKUS, students. And they have come together to establish a new trilateral security partnership. And this partnership is also being dubbed by China as an alliance against it. So the focus of AUKUS, that's what the countries claim, that the focus of AUKUS will be on integrating all defense and security related science, supply chains, industrial bases, and technology. And it would also involve a new architecture of meetings and engagements between the 3 countries and cooperation across emerging technologies, AI and quantum technologies, undersea capabilities, and all of that. Now, these are the claims made on record and formal claims. However, China views this alliance also very similar to Quad, and this alliance also, an effort by US to pitch these countries against China. Then, students, the third alliance that China has spoken about, it's the Five Eyes Alliance. Now, let's understand what Five Eyes Alliance is. So basically, students, the Five Eyes Alliance, it's an intelligence alliance. It's a spy alliance of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and US, students, right? And it is one of the most well-known of all the espionage alliance in the world, all the intelligence and spy alliance in the world, students, right? And the origins of Five Eyes can be traced back to the end of the World War II, when the Allies set down post-war goals in the Atlantic Charter. So even though it originated in the post-World War era, immediately after the World War II, but it holds relevance till today. It is functional till today, students. And it sort of became more active when the war on terror broke out in 2001. So it was then that this Five Eyes Alliance expanded its surveillance capabilities to monitor the World Wide Web in order to pick up on the online chatter or the online, text or messages of the terror groups. In fact, students, you must have heard of this whole Snowden controversy, wherein a controversy erupted when Edward Snowden, a former contractor of the American National Security Agency, leaked classified documents in the public domain in 2013, students, right? So Five Eyes, AUKUS, and Quad, and obviously the various bilateral partnerships. So what are bilateral? Bilateral are like when two countries are involved in a partnership or agreement or an alliance. So US is also, trying to strike bilateral partnerships with different countries. It has one with India as well. So to strengthen the ties with those countries and bring them closer to it and away from China. So China basically, students, views these actions and efforts of US as largely anti-China, right? Now going back, so in the recent weeks, Beijing has repeatedly blamed NATO for this crisis in Ukraine, right? And while claiming to stay neutral, it has moved to reaffirm its ties with Russia, students. So basically, there was a point when China and Russia were like enemies. They did not have, like amicable relations, friendly relations. However, the both countries have come together to unify against US students, right? So here, as you read, that Beijing has described relations with Russia as rock solid and has reaffirmed its ties. And beyond their already deep political and economic linkages, these mirrored concern on US alliances are emerging as a powerful binding glue in the China-Russia axis. That means that all the alliances that US is forging, the repercussion or the outcome of that is that it is bringing together China and Russia, students. So we are seeing this, emergence of this bipolar world, wherein on one hand you have US and its allies, and on the other hand you have you have Russia and China together. And of course, then you have those smaller ancillary countries which don't have a choice but either to side with one of the two groups, or then you have a country like India who tries to stay largely neutral and non-aligned. Now, students, let's talk about the implications of this for India. So, students, New Delhi will need to consider how this will impact its close relations with Russia. Now, students, why we are talking about this is because what is the claim made by US? That Quad is another version of NATO. That means by explicitly equating the Quad, which is not a military pact, with other security agreements, China now also appears to be clearly situating India as part of the US exclusive club. That means China now sees India as a clear member of an alliance led by US, which is being equated with NATO, which is a military organization. That means, China sees India as part of an alliance which is military in nature and led by US students. So now, students, the repercussions this has for India is, or the implication this has for India is that New Delhi will now to reconsider how this will impact its close relations with Russia, because Russia is a very close ally of China in the present times, right? And China and Russia together are enemies with, don't have friendly relations or view US as a threat, right? Now, India has very good relations with Russia, but at the same time, It is a strategic ally of US also. So now India will have to do this balancing act between these two groups. And India will have to consider that how it does that. So New Delhi has come to view Beijing's aggressive moves along the LAC, the line of actual control, as a warning sign to deter India-US relations. So India also sees, or India believes, that China has been so aggressive on the borders, primarily because of the kind of relations that India enjoys with US. So that's like a threat to India that either you don't try to get into those alliances with US or you face this. Yes. And then students, India's firm and correct response has been to continue deepening ties not only with the US and the Quad, but also other Indo-Pacific partners. So India is trying to do that balancing act. On one hand, it is getting close to US. On the other hand, it is also trying to get into alliances with, or trying to forge good relationships with Russia, with other Indo-Pacific region countries like your ASEAN countries or Japan or South Korea or Australia, New Zealand, right? So India is not, trying to get into or align with any particular group, but it is trying to just get or foster good relationships with countries worldwide. And students, here there's other message from India that the sensitivity to concerns has to be mutual, students, right? China cannot expect India to stay away from US or not to forge or strengthen relationship with US when it is trying to come very close to Pakistan. It is trying to get Pakistan under its wings and trying to foster deep relationships with Pakistan, right? So basically, the sensitivity to concerns has to be mutual. It has to be a two-way process. So by and large, students, this article, the key message was that the various alliances that US is getting into is being seen as anti-China by China and as different versions of NATO. And because India is also part of these alliances, it has certain implications for India, particularly in terms of its relationship with Russia, wherein it will have to do very balancing act between, its alliances with US and its relationship with Russia. So that's all for this video, students. Thank you so much.